couple of things to go through today. I wish I had some better news, but we got to break down what's going on. We got to keep track of these yahoos. Because even though I'll start now with a couple of points before I get my three topics. I know it's really difficult right now. It's tiring. Your body, because of the tsunami of bullshit they throw at us, which was the plan all the way through. Project 2025's whole point was to blitz the quarterback on every play. Every day of the week, blitz the quarterback. Okay. So if you're feeling, a little tense, that's valid. I realized that yesterday, lying on the couch, watching a physics video. It took me a long time just to, literally calm down and get to the point where I could just, relax, put everything outside of my head, get into, I think it was a video about the Planck length, smallest length before length doesn't mean anything anymore. So I've been telling a lot of my friends, been telling my family, don't forget to breathe. Stay calm. Even when ICE is around, stay calm. The news is not going to get any better until the midterms. Because one of the things I'm going to talk about right up front is more proof that the government does not protect Americans. It protects money, it protects assets, it protects the people who control the money and the assets. It doesn't protect everyday Americans. And I'll get really deep into that in my first topic. Of course, it's about the Epstein files. The other thing, I want to go back to my last video talking about going into the church, because I've seen a lot of people who lean left literally celebrating going into that church. Thank you for all the likes and the repost of that video. The video got a lot of attention quick. That was pretty cool. If a house of worship, because why a house of worship is a protected place, that comes from common law. That's the stuff we brought over from Europe. That was the good parts of what commonalities occurred. If you can go disrupt a church or a house of worship, a meeting house, why not a polling place? Why not a union hall? Why not a judicial court? Because all those come from the same common law aspect of don't be invading a meeting house. Okay. And I agree with the protesters. Don't get me wrong. I just disagree with that method. I know that guy Eastwood's a shit. Yeah, I got it. I'm with you on that. Okay. But if you start throwing out, 250 years of base law, public decorum, and decided law, that this is going to get uglier than y'all realize. So just be careful. Because trust me when I say in the 1970s in New England, nobody is going into a Quaker meeting house and causing a disturbance. Well, you may get in because the Quakers are pacifists. They're not going to kick you out. They're not going to yell at you. They're definitely not going to fight you. But the Catholics and the Protestants, the Irish and the French Catholics, the British Anglicans, the Protestants from Germany, we're all going to be waiting outside the meeting hall with baseball bats and sticks, and we're going to kick the living shit out of you as soon as you walk out of that meeting house. Nobody's calling the cops. Nobody's calling the sheriff. We're just going wholesale whip ass on you. Okay? Those people won't fight back. We will. Okay? So pick another avenue, please. Okay, I went to full detail. Please, if you haven't seen the video, go ahead and watch it. Um, bring up the whole history on why a meeting place, a congregation, a temple are protected meeting places under common law and state statute in every single state. Okay, let's get to the first batch here. There will be no special master for the Epstein files. I was just saying. Um, the American government doesn't really do a good job at protecting Americans. And it's getting worse over time. What usually corrects our big problems? What corrected Watergate? Pentagon Papers. What corrected the Catholic Church diocese hiding all the pedophiles? The victims going public in Boston, than other places. They had to protect the victims in Boston when they were really protecting the cardinal of the diocese. They were they were they were protecting the church, not the victims. Harvey Weinstein. Oh yeah, police and government lawyers were all over that, right? No, it was going on for more than 15 years. Courtney Love did more to protect victims for years than the government did. Remember, she did twice. Once in a red carpet interview and once on stage. She says, "Here's a free advice for all the new young ladies in Hollywood: don't go to Harvey Weinstein's suite at the Four Seasons." NSA surveillance. People in Congress knew what was happening. They hid it too. Ed Snowden and others had to reveal that. Don't think Ed Snowden's that big of a hero. I think he had some alternative motives there, but yeah, we ended up finding out that they were just wholesale surveilling every phone call and every email going through any unencrypted system. And it started in San Francisco at the central office where they plugged into the backbone of the internet and just vacuumed up every single packet. The police corruptions. That's usually dealt with more by reporters in newspapers than it is the government itself. So no special master for the Epstein files. So where does this leave the situation? Well, the DOJ now has complete permission never to release the files, and they won't. Because we all know they're lying. They're, Pam Bondi could not have had all the materials of the Epstein files on her desk, which she just got done reviewing, and there be 2 million pages of documents they haven't looked at yet. Both cannot be true. Okay. So what's the chance of Pam Bondi delivering the Epstein files publicly? Zero. Zero. Especially now there's no special master. The judge claims there was no avenue because they did it through Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal case. And there wasn't a subject of law that the judge could follow that would allow him to assign the special master. Okay. Judges do freaky things all the time, you know. And I know if he'd have ruled any differently, then appealed it immediately. Because the whole point is to hide the files, not to release them. Because everybody that's actually seen the files and have whistleblown to various people, a lot of independent journalists have been picking up signal from inside the FBI and other places. Um, the Epstein files are a lot worse than everybody thinks. A lot worse. That's why they're hiding. And it's not that dear leader porn star Humper is in the Epstein files. He is the Epstein files. The two buddies that were close was Epstein and Trump, according to everybody. And apparently, they some of the emails are still shocking to me. Michael Kirk Damas has a couple of good pages where they've taken the shitty dump they did, and they dumped the data crappily on purpose. They could have cleaned the data up and made it readable and everything. They purposely did not do that. So, white hat hackers did it for us. And there's a bunch of pages where you can actually see color coded by author. You can actually read it like a Gmail box. There's several representations that have been built of that data that goes through. And I spent a couple of days reading it. Um, these guys had no fear of getting caught. None. They were less than worried, not even mildly concerned that somebody would catch them or do something when they got caught. When I'm saying the governments didn't protect the Epstein victims, they didn't protect the Epstein victims from literally square one in the local police and the local DA. Even they knew this was a criminal conspiracy involving dozens of suspects. They had already identified several suspects, including Maxwell and her female friend. The non-prosecution agreement that Epstein signed let all those other people off the hook. The groomers are out to get your kids. Hey, but the wealthy guys want to fuck kids. We're not going to really say much. Even when we catch him, we're not even going to do much. He only served 6 months, and he served months in the county jail. They cordoned off a whole section of the jail, gave him a private kitchen, was allowed work release up to 16 to 18 hours a day when the judge said 8, and they barely kept tabs on the guy. Okay, it makes the club fed imprisonments look silly. Now Ghislaine Maxwell's got a puppy and internet access. She's a serial rapist and a serial child sex trafficker. She has a puppy and a computer with internet access. That's protecting the victims? No, no. From the very start to right this very moment, the government has avoided protecting the victims completely. Because whether Epstein killed himself or didn't kill himself, that's not the fucking point. That's the fucking distraction. Why weren't his pals arrested? Why weren't the co-conspirators immediately brought in on material witness warrants and jacked up by the FBI, knowing the cops knew this shit originally in the local Florida town? This wasn't a secret. But how much did they protect the millions, the victims? None. Didn't care. Still don't care. Pam Bondi doesn't give a shit about the Epstein victims. Todd Blanche does not care. Kristi Noem does not care. Why are they invading Minneapolis, Portland, Boston, and Memphis, and then tomorrow morning they're going to invade Philly? Why is that? To distract you on how they will not go after the people who were involved with Epstein. The people they've known about for more than a decade. So where does this leave us with the Epstein files? Just like the Pentagon Papers, just like the abuse victims at the churches, just like Harvey Weinstein, somebody private in their own private space is going to have to speak up. It's going to be up to the victims to call a press conference and just put it all out on the table and spill all the beans. It literally has to come from the mouth of the victim. They have to give testimony live and in public. Name names. Now I know all the things that are going to happen. I know. Okay, the risk for the victims is insane. We're talking they're going to be victims of smear campaigns. They're going to be investigated by the federal government. They're going to be sued by these rich degenerates who molested them. Fox News and OAN are going to twist every one of their words. Never mind the horrible things that's going to happen on Tim Cook or Benny Johnson's podcast. And having to, testify. I was a guy that had to do a few sex crime investigations. I told you about this before. My rape case that I did of the prostitute getting raped in the park. That report stayed in the training books for 15 years after I retired. I could do those investigations very well. They were very tough personally. Like I did a domestic disturbance, husband and wife, where the husband also got charged with rape. Those are fun. And I know having to have the victim go to court and speak of the crime is a re-victimization process. I completely understand that. But what other hope do we have? We're never seeing what the DOJ has unless somebody steals the files and throws them at the Washington Post, like the Pentagon Papers got handed to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Without that happening, what can happen? Nothing. Because they like cover-ups. They love cover-ups. Especially, I'm not saying just this administration or just Trump. The government loves a good cover-up. But this nationalist regime, they're beyond the pale even when it comes to cover-ups. They started covering up Renee Good's homicide, criminal homicide. I think it's murder too, by the way. Before even the ambulance was called. And the facts are in evidence that's true. It wasn't like the local cops, the sheriff, the DA, the state prosecutors, the federal prosecutors, or the FBI didn't know what was going on in Jeffrey Epstein and Jeffrey Epstein's island. Just like they completely knew what Matt Gaetz was doing. Again, with little girls. Because Matt Gaetz's wingman is in prison for him. Joel, what is he, a tax collector or was a tax collector before he went to prison? The guy who thought he was a cop, by the way. He drove around in a car with lights and sirens and had a bulletproof vest and a gun. I don't think he understood what his job title and job role was in the government, but yeah. Explains a lot, though. Megalomania, dominance. He wasn't just trying to dominate little girls. And what's sick, with that part, this is the sickest thing it makes me. They want to dominate little girls, and then they want to punish them with abnormal sex. These are sick fucks. And you know why they do it? Because they're not man enough to have a relationship with a real woman. Okay? These are little men with tiny dicks. Fucking walnut-sized fucking brains. So yeah, the victims are going to have to come out. And it has to come out in a very formal, like almost the way you would say it in court. Because it can't just be salacious gossip. It's got to be the facts of the case DOJ is hiding on behalf of Dear Leader Pornstar Hopper and his friends. A cabal of child molesting, sex trafficking, child rapists. And why all of a sudden Bovino says we're looking for child rapists? Every interview. Well, if everybody would stay away, we're looking for child rapists. Okay, we've got a couple of child rapists you're not arresting, and we know who they are. We got some drug dealers too. Oh, that's right. Dear leader pardoned them. See, everything they're doing right now, especially with ICE, is performative. It's not law enforcement. Purely performative, purely political theater. Oh, we had to go find 300 more child rapists today. How many did you actually arrest today? None. But we're looking for them. Is this your excuse for hiding the Epstein file? Because you're looking for other child rapists? You're too busy looking for the other child rapist. You can't arrest you can't release the information and arrest the child rapist you already know about. That's your con. For fuck's sake. Okay. And more political theater. It seems that the Fourth Amendment has been dismissed by ICE. According to ICE, they have just claimed, Associated Press reporting. Several people sent me the article before. I had just read it, and all of a sudden, ping, 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 ping. Multiple people sent it to me through WhatsApp and Signal and stuff. They go, "Did you see this?" I go, "Yeah, I saw the Associated Press article." Um, they have decided for themselves if they have a final deportation order, that final deportation order is a general warrant that allows them to kick in any door in any city, in any town, anywhere in America, as long as they think they can convince you that the person they're looking for could be there. That's not how search warrants work. That's not how arrest warrants work. Once the judge issues arrest warrants and it's distributed by the sheriff's office, like um I was really strict on my beat when it came to warrants. First thing I did, whatever my Monday is, we worked rotating shifts, 7 day 4-10 plan. Uh so we had rotating days. But whatever my Monday, whatever my start of the week was, when I get done with briefing, first thing I do is go to the warrant folder and look through all the warrants that were on my beat and immediately start looking for any felonies, any felons that are wanted by the judge. You're not supposed to be here. You're supposed to be in jail. Okay. Now I knew that if I catch you walking on the sidewalk or sitting in a restaurant or a bar, that's a public spot. Okay. But if you're in your house, unless you invite me in or you happen to walk outside, okay, I just can't kick in your door and go arrest you because you have an arrest warrant. Okay. I need a search warrant additionally to go execute the arrest warrant inside of a domicile. Okay. And that's been the law for a couple of centuries here. This is nothing new. So to suddenly claim that you have a deportation order and that order equates to a general warrant not requiring you go get warrants, search warrants for specific addresses. Okay, and this is not the first time they did this. This Black Hawk fucking let's raid the whole apartment building stunt they pulled on South Shore in Chicago. That was a general warrant. Where was Congress? Asleep at the wheel. They just pulled off a general warrant and executed warrants without any paperwork. They unconstitutionally physically broke down doors to hundreds of apartments looking for alleged gang members they didn't find. Now, why am I bringing this up tonight? Because guess what ICE is doing in the morning? They really don't like that people in Philly, especially the Black Panthers, because remember, ICE is. There's a reason why you don't see Proud Boy marches anymore. The Proud Baby's got a job working for the evil little Nazi midget, Bobino. Okay, so when the Black Panthers said, "We're not taking your shit," they're going to invade Philly with over 1,000 agents tomorrow morning. with it in their head, they don't need search warrants. They've gone city to city to city looking to pick a fight. If you live in Texas, Oklahoma, Wyoming, how would you feel if Bill Clinton, or worse, Hillbot, sent federal agents to Cheyenne or Laramie, Wyoming, and literally just started boxing in any car they wanted to, smashing the window out, pepper spraying the window vents, and then punching the driver in the face repeatedly because they had a reasonable suspicion you may not have an ID card? Would you like that in Cheyenne? Would you like that in Dallas and Fort Worth? Would you like that in Jacksonville, Florida? Oh, you redneck Florida men? You're okay with it if it's happening in Chicago, Portland, Boston. The fuck? That one was so fucking far off. I was like, oh my god! Now they're just fucking. What is there? A fucking wheel and they spin it, you know? And then Stephen Miller runs up and puts his dick in the hole and goes, "Oh look, it's Boston now!" Ha! Everybody celebrates. What the fuck? I don't know how they're planning any of this shit. Nothing makes sense, and I don't even think it's supposed to. Okay, this is a multi-billion-dollar show of political theater, so you will be distracted by the fact that the sitting president of the United States not only is a convicted felon, not only is an adjudicated rapist, he's a suspected serial child rapist, a pedophile. So Congress, instead of pulling all of ISIS's funding as soon as they started this crap, oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely nobody in Congress deserves their job right now. Nobody. Nobody as a corporate CEO deserves their job right now. Not a one. Oh, we're the leaders. We're the ones that make sure everything works right. If anything would go wrong, we're the leadership that would stand up and, tell people they had to fix it. Yeah. No, no, you're not. That was true in the 70s. When the Supreme Court told Nixon, you got to cough up the tapes, you lying little asshole. What happened then? A delegation from Congress marched their ass off Capitol Hill, walked over to the White House, led by Senator Barry Goldwater. They sat Nixon down in the residence and they leaned over that table and they told him, "You do not have the support of the Senate anymore." And Barry Goldwater leaned closer and said, "You don't even have my support anymore, Mr. President." Compare that with the literal ass kissing, if not ass licking, if not asshole licking that's going on in Congress today. Tell me how any of them deserve their fucking job. Schumer and Booker want to give ICE more money? Tell me how they deserve their fucking jobs. You've already spent billions on performative Nazi agenda, and you want to give them more money as Democrats. Not one of them deserved their jobs. I worked the night of Rodney King. I don't think the people realize nights of Rodney King. I don't think people recall how bad that was. And it wasn't just LA. It was all over the country. If this causes a problem, It's going to be far worse. We're not going to have billions of dollars of damage. We're going to have hundreds of billions of dollars worth of damage. We're not going to have a dozen people killed. We're going to have hundreds. That's how far Trump and the idiots and the nationalists, the full-blown Nazis in his orbit, that's how willing they're, that's how far they're willing to take this. Okay. ICE pulled over a Minnesota cop and threatened to kill her. Okay. I'm actually shocked that we haven't had a serious problem already. When it starts, it ain't gonna stop until we literally offend ourselves. I hope the oligarchs know what they're risking. We don't have any money. Remember, you took it all away from us. All the infrastructure and all the property is yours. So good luck keeping it together. Because if real violence breaks out in this country, the stock market's already in trouble. The bond market's already in trouble. Insurance and reinsurance is already in trouble. We have major problems beyond civil disobedience, getting into civil disturbance. Yeah, you could see your investments, you could see your 401k plummet. Money could panic. And with one thing that the reason Rodney King spread so much was CNN. Ted Turner wanted his clicks, wanted his views. So this kept playing it and kept playing it and kept playing it, kept playing it. No context, no real discussion. It was just like, hey, people are watching it and they're getting. Mark Zuckerberg is not the one to figure out, or Elon Musk was not the one to figure out. Piss you off, you'll pay attention more. That was actually Ted Turner. So Ted Turner basically poured gasoline on the fire and started the riots. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram will be the fuel to the carnage if it goes south today. So the speed of the internet is a million times faster than CNN was back in the day. So when this starts, it's going to spread instantaneously. It's going to balloon out of control instantaneously. And I think a lot of Trump supporting cops are in for a real eye opener. Okay. Up to and including your Tonka toy tanks aren't going to help you. Especially when a person during a riot decides to take their gravel truck and hit your little armored vehicle, at 90 miles an hour in a gravel truck. Okay. Kinetic energy is kinetic energy. You're fucked. Hell, even at 40 or 50 miles an hour, a gravel truck fully loaded, that's probably 10 million foot-pounds of energy. You're basically in a steel box. What do you think is going to happen when that box gets hit with 10 million pounds of energy, foot-pounds of energy? Ain't going to be pretty. Okay. You're all gung-ho until the real problem starts. Okay. Davos. What the fuck just happened? I'm a dictator. He said that. Dear leader, porn star Humper said, yeah, I can be a dictator. Sometimes I have to be a dictator. I'm a dictator. Okay, cat's out of the fucking bag now. But that was far from like the big problem isn't the bombastic bullshit he loves to play because he thinks he is really a strong man. He doesn't think Delta Force is tough. He doesn't think the military is tough. He doesn't think the cops are tough. He thinks he's tough. And the reason they're tough is him. He literally thinks that. He's that nuts. You know, the stupid stuff he said was just one thing after another. But the thing that really tweaked me, um, and that's why I put my German metal band concert shirt on, or the blackout uh, album T-shirt. Scorpions from Germany, one of the bands I got into big time when I lived over in West Germany in the '80s. Um, he pulled out the old Hollywood line that's so overused in spoof movies and teenage spoofs, comedies, whatever. I've heard the line so many times. Well, it wasn't for us. You all would be speaking German. And then he repeats that stupid line at Davos. The main language in Switzerland is a dialect of German. They've always spoke German, you fucking idiot. It's Swiss German. It's a slightly different dialect. I had trouble hearing it, um, just because I just lived in a different region. Um, just like America has dialects, Germans have really strong dialects. German sounds different when I'm in Frankfurt versus Bavaria versus Switzerland or Austria. Okay. But it is a form of German. Okay. If you weren't speaking German, if it wasn't for us, you all be speaking German. Do you even know where the fuck you are, you lunatic? You damn dementia patient? I mean, just idiotic. And his greatest hits of lies, he just has to repeat. Inflation has been defeated. No, it's not. It's 3%. You're a damn liar. You're a habitual liar. You're a malignant narcissist who habitually lies about everything. Inflation has been defeated. Then why aren't we seeing deflation? Prices should be going down right now. By your own statements that you love to repeat, things should be getting cheaper right now, and they're not. Ground beef's against the dollar is almost at an all-time high. Can't believe where silver is right now. Okay, I started stacking in the mid 20s. It's 94 today. Yeah, the bars I bought for $240 are now worth almost $1,000. And I have a 300-ounce stack. Everything's more expensive. My son just bought a car. I couldn't believe the price of cars. I went to the dealership and had to give him, good backup as dad. So, man, when I was looking at the prices on the new cars, I'm like, I don't know how they're selling any of these. Things are way too distant from earnings. Cost of living in versus earnings is just getting too much of a spread. I don't know how people are affording things. Um, Luckily, he's got a job at a local college. He got a adjunct professorship, and he's doing contract work. He does theater direction, musical direction, plays a bunch of instruments, arranges music, all that kind of stuff. So he's quite busy. So that's how he was able to afford a car. But even with his car, I was like, wow, that's expensive. He also said the United States is in the midst of the fastest and most dramatic economic turnaround in our country's history. He keeps saying this like the economy had failed and we were in a Great Depression under Biden. That's just not true. It's just this angry, fanciful thing like, everything I do is the best. Everything he does is the worst. It's this stupid zero-sum game crap. If he wins, the other person has to just lose. They have to be an absolute loser. And that's part of his malignant narcissism. Since my inauguration, we've lifted more than 1.2 million people off of food stamps. Bullshit. That's just bullshit. It's been going down since the end of COVID. A lot of people ended up on food stamps because of the lockdowns. See, people had to eat. Okay, fucking defense contractor can be $500 billion over a major project, and not a politician anywhere has got a thing goddamn say about it. Somebody needs, what do they get a day per person? Like $15? And that one of the that Nazi-minded lunatic Brooke over at Ag. Oh, we should reduce that to $3. Fuck you. Tax Elon Musk. Have him pay for it. We've secured. Biden says he says Biden only secured less than $1 trillion of investment in our country over 4 years. Substantially less than that. See, he's always got to say the number, and if it's his number, he says a number, then lifts the number. If it's somebody else's number, he says the number and then says, "Oh, it's actually less than that." Every time. It's a manic thing he does in his speech patterning. No, investment wasn't less than $1 trillion over 4 years. Remember, the battery plants were going on before Trump came in office, before Trump raided the battery plants, and all the South Koreans went home and don't want to come back to America because ICE is a bunch of fucking idiots. They can't tell Native Americans or South Koreans from Mexicans and Guatemalans. These are the fucktards that are running around the street with assault weapons doing law enforcement. They're not doing law enforcement in my book. And I'm an ex-sergeant in the military police and retired cop. I'm telling you, this isn't fucking law enforcement. This has nothing to do with law enforcement. This is closer to the brown shirts in the Third Reich Germany than any sense of reasonable Pelian law enforcement. He keeps saying this fucking number. I brought in a record-breaking $18 trillion in less than 1 year. No, you didn't, you lying little bastard. You little man. If that number was true, do you know what a yard of cement would cost right now? Do you know what 1,000 feet of copper wire would cost right now? Or a gallon of diesel? And of course, what did I just tell you? If it's somebody else's number, he says the number and pitches it down. This is what he followed up with. I think when the final numbers come out, it'll be closer to 20 trillion in investment. 20 trillion is over 4/5 of our current economy. You're telling me in 1 year, you nearly doubled the economy. And you defeated inflation. Is the average American this much of a fucking idiot? There is no possible way in the mathematical economic universe you could inject 18 to 20 trillion dollars into the American economy without melting it frickin' down. His disgust, anger, and hatred toward Europe, I have a theory about that. He was already a pro-hater before he got around Bannon and Miller, okay? He learned that from his dad, Fred. Okay, he's brought up a hater. He's always been a hater. The reason why he hates Europe is Europe acts and functions in a modern pluralistic context. The reason they wanted everybody fired out of federal government, especially black women, because it's a pluralistic hiring system that advances talented people regardless of what they look like or who they love. Okay. The federal government, before Doge tried to kill it, and he did do super bad damage for sure, the federal government looked a lot like the way Europe looks. A merit based system that is also a pluralistic system that doesn't forget we have needy people. Not every government contract should go to the biggest companies. That's why they tried to dismantle the federal government practically in whole. It was a system of diversity. It was a system of pluralism. It was a system of merit. This is a long, long, long time ago. I think it was on Rogan's show. Mercedes Carrera, the porn star from like 20 years ago. I don't know. She still works in porn. I don't know. But she used to be an engineer, an aerospace engineer. I guess she still is. She has multiple master's degrees. She's a smart porn star, and she used to work for the government. And she was talking about, no, the government has the best hiring system on earth because they literally have to pay you down the line for all your credentials and experience and yada yada yada. All that factors into what you get paid. Okay, they just can't go in there and go, oh great, you got a master's degree, come in here and work for minimum wage, and after you sign up, I'm going to take shit away from you. They can't do that to you in the federal government. Oh, do you have a master's degree? Oh, that's a 5% bump. Same thing when I worked in the civilian police department. Um, uh, Associate's degree was 2.5% bump. Bachelor's degree was 5, and a PhD was 7.5% base pay bump, which is non-negotiable on the employer side. If they possess a degree, you have to pay them. So yeah, a lot of our supervisors had master's degrees. Okay, so you had well-educated people, competent in their domain expertise, diverse, pluralistic, functioning. That's why they sent in Doge. Trump hates Europe. He hates the fact that different people live together, work together, and prosper. Trump wants his ethno state, just like Miller, Vaught, Bannon, and about half the Republicans in Congress. That's why he hates Europe. Pretty ugly, huh? But I think that's it. I think that's why he hates Europe, and that's why he wanted to get rid of the federal government employees in mass because they look like an integrated society. It isn't a bunch of white tech bros doing everything, making all the decisions like they're little fiefdom rulers. No. And he lies about tariffs again. He sounds so stupid when he does this. He literally sounds like a child who doesn't know how to add or read. Instead of raising taxes on domestic producers, we're lowering them and raising tariffs on foreign nations to pay for the damage they caused. His whole idea that the world takes from America is total bullshit. I talked a little bit about that with the what happens if we go into Greenland video yesterday. Um, Anybody who's sitting there claiming any right wing bullshitter on the internet, maybe like a twat like Benny Johnson or Tim Pool, or idiots overseas like Najib Faraj, they're always convinced that Europe is ripping everybody off. No. Every single one of those foreign countries Trump is bitching about does transactions in the US dollar, buys and sells things in the US dollar. That subsidizes us. They buy U.S. Treasury investment vehicles. That subsidizes us, not the other way around. Okay. His whole idea that we've been taken advantage of is so preposterous, so backwards, and so gutturally stupid. But nobody will correct him. Nobody in his inner circle will correct him, even though what's coming out of his mouth is 100% backwards. He says he cut the government spending. No, that's not what the judges said. That's not what the blow by blow analysis of the actual cuts by the New York Times said. He said he cut federal spending by 100 billion and dropped the federal budget deficit by 27% in a single year. Neither of those things are true. He keeps claiming that he's rewritten 40% of all the trade deals because the other presidents were too stupid to do trade deals. Um, Most of what he's calling trade deals aren't trade deals. When you don't have a trade team to go to Japan, what you come back with is letters of interest and possibly a framework, not a trade deal. He literally thinks he can send one person over to a country and they'll sign a trade deal with one guy, not the panel of experts and diplomats and subject matter experts, depending on what the major chunks of the trade bill, what products and services they're going to be dealing with. You have a lot of domain experts to get around the table. Um, just simply not true. Like I'm reading through this and like paragraph after paragraph, it's either if he thinks it's good, it's inflated. If he thinks it's bad, it's eliminated. And it's all because he did it in 1 year. Nobody ever existed. America, the universe didn't exist. It just popped into being on January 21st, 2025, when he swore in for the second term, and everything that happened was because of him. Trends that started well before he retook office, like the SNAP payments going down. That trend was already started 2 years before he took office again. I looked it up. Not not him. Okay. It's more of a factor of the pandemic. Of course, he practically had an orgasm right there on stage. He praised himself for stealing the oil and starting a slush fund in Qatar, run by his biggest campaign donor. He Trump has set up, and he's congratulating himself for setting up a, a, a second treasury, a second illegal treasury in a foreign country that is friendly to him. Same country that gave him the plane, by the way. Oh my God, U.S. oil production this, U.S. oil production that. Don't listen to a fucking word he says about oil production. Go watch Matt Rudolph, Mr. Global. Okay. Go up and Google search the rig counts. They're falling in America. You know, uh, this is what I mean by this all pales compared. Watergate pales to this. I mean, Watergate is a simple problem, even though it was pretty big back then. I mean, pretty massive, right? This is so much bigger. If Watergate was the size of the Earth, Trumpianism is the size of the solar system. Okay. One of the big things and why somebody almost, got torn into the criminal side of Watergate and got prosecuted and sent to prison was the slush fund in the safe in Sloan's office in Creep. the committee to reelect the president. They had a $2 million slush fund where they could just take money out and do anything they want, pay hitters, pay burglars. That's where they got the money for the burglars. Um, Pay whatever they were going to pay. And that was on top of the money showing up at Spiro Agnew's office as the vice president. He just robbed the country. He used the military so he could rob the country of 50 million barrels of oil. 50 million barrels at $60 a barrel. We're not talking $2 million. We're talking $3+ billion. Am I the only one that sees this as the Mount Everest sized problem it is? Who's controlling that money? Who has access to the accounts? What inspector general is in charge of auditing the receiving and the expenditure of the funds? What appropriations have been made by the House Appropriations Committee? What appropriations have been approved by the large body of the House and then voted again on by the Senate? None of that's happened. Sloan's office, safe. $2 million in Watergate. $3+ billion in an illegal slush fund overseas, and they're bragging about it. He keeps saying that gas, again, because he thinks this is exactly it. This is how mental this fucker is. Gasoline is now below 250. Then he proceeds to give numbers of 230, 2, and 195. Which one is it, asshole? This is one paragraph. He says 4 different numbers. Why? Because he said one number, 250, but he's got to lower it because he thinks that makes himself look better. So he lowered it 3 times in a row. I mean, if anybody did this to you at work, you would just look them out. You'd call them out to their face. What the hell are you talking about? I asked you what the size of the backups were last night. They should be about 2.43 terabytes. What was it last night? Well, it was 2.43. No, it was 2. It was 1. No, I think it was 1.7. Okay, if you don't go look at the numbers in the console and give me a real number in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to fire you. I've never had somebody do that to me at work, thank God. Now, timeline lying, that's always a thing in tech. They'll tell you, just like Money Pit with Tom Hanks. 2 weeks. How many admins and system engineers, when I was doing team leading, were like, "Oh yeah, I'll have that deployment ready in 2 weeks. I'm taking Thursday and Friday off, but by next Friday, I'll have it deployed and available over the weekend to the downstream admins." You get told 2 weeks 3-4 times, and then you got to tell them get the fucking project done. It's not your choice, not my choice. It's the chief security officer's choice. Knock it off. Um, Trump has allowed his right-wing allies in the tech bros who run AI companies, and he was proud of this in his speech, that they can generate their own electricity on site by violating the Clean Air Act and by screwing local residents. So happy about that. Like I've told you before, we should have been building next generation nuclear power plants after 9/11, and we should have been listening to T. Boone Pickens, the wildcat oil man, that we should have built windmills from North Texas to the Dakotas and asked Canada to keep going. Then we should have rebuilt the entire electrical grid. Like we have the Eisenhower interstate system. We need to create the Eisenhower electrical grid and also tell Texas to shut the fuck up. The EM field is infinite, goes through the entire universe. You do not run your own EM field, you morons, you lying idiots. And they're about to get a cold snap tonight, starting tonight. And man, thoughts to the good people of Texas because the last time they had nasty weather in the winter, a couple hundred people died. Retired Army veterans got an electric bill for when the electricity was turned off because of their casino scheme of billing. The electricity was off for 3 days, and that cost a retired E7 sergeant first class from the Army $12,000+ for not having electricity. That's how much of a casino con artistry system their utility is. Now, PG&E out here on the West Coast sucks too, but I'm saying they suck even a hell of a lot more. Okay. Because that's another way that politicians do not look out for Americans. If you actually cared about Americans and safety and prosperity and a good quality of life, you'd have reformed the utilities 25 years ago. Because most utilities are a problem. And of course, he doesn't like Angela Merkel, the former leader of Germany. So he spends an entire couple of paragraphs shitting on Germany. Okay. Yeah, Germany's got problems. We all got problems. Okay. But Germany's not a bad country. They're our friends. They're my relatives. I married a German woman. And I used to live there. It's such a nice country. It really is. Some of the areas in Germany, just like here in the United States or up in Canada, just beautiful places. Um, the Germans in general are really nice, but so is everybody when I travel. Generally, people are very nice. Like when he starts shitting on people for having to speak German in Switzerland, they also speak English, French, Romance. There's a bunch of languages they speak. I met a woman at a casino one night. She was part of the stage show for New Year's Eve, and she was sitting at our table, a bunch of GIs, and she was like, "Yeah, I speak 7 languages." I'm like, "Wow, that's a true polyglot." But the average Swiss person speaks 3 or 4 languages, anyways. And a lot of them speak English, and if you don't speak a foreign language, they're very nice about you know speaking English with you, and they don't get spiky if you try to speak German and you're not really good at it. They may giggle at you, but they'll be very nice and they'll correct you and say, no, this is what you meant because you asked for something completely different. Oh, okay, thanks. Can I have that? Yeah, thanks. So when he's just attacking people and he's done this for 10 years now. He has such a fucking hard on for Germany. And I'm like, really? Really? With the crowd you hang out with, really? Then he starts shitting on windmills, uh, gives a hand job to nuclear. Our answer is nuclear as the baseline, natural gas as the regional load balancer, then as much renewables as we can possibly deploy. Solar and wind. And I've been running my own solar array now for over 10 years. 10.2 kilowatt hours. Okay. One of the smartest investments I've ever made. I put it up there with investing in Starbucks before they split as individual stocks. I used to trade my own stocks, had a Series 7 desk at a trading house, the whole thing. I'm not a Series 7 trader. I understand the math. They were nice to give me a Citrix desktop to a real trading desk. Um, so yeah, solar panels number one, Starbucks pretty close to number one, and my Corning debenture notes, private debt. I have a bunch of private debt from them. So if you don't think solar works, then you're just lying to yourself. Someone lied to you. Something's wrong. Uh, Solar panels are freaking awesome. Windmills are freaking awesome. A lot more farms are putting out windmills out here, ranch scale windmills. Even see it in the Delta along the river. There are more and more ranch windmills because overnight the wind is always blowing out there. And if you can get 15, 20 feet in the air, you're not paying for electricity at night. So if your water pumps still pulling water for your crops or whatever, a lot of unless you're using like something big like a multi horsepower pump um, all night long, windmill will knock out will definitely knock out all your lighting and maybe an appliance or two you'd be running. Um, so he's backed big donors who are paying him, even though the big donors just told him he's an idiot for Venezuela, but he's still 100% oil, 100% coal. And we'll do nuclear. No, we won't, because the effort to do nuclear is monumental. It's to do nuclear the way we need nuclear done. It'd be like an Apollo program. He is just not the leader for that. Let's be honest there. Um, he went on about Greenland, dumbest thing, and at the end of the Greenland Denmark stuff, that's where he said you'd be speaking German. So childish, so stupid. No couth, no acronym, no self discipline. Just a horrible, horrible speaker, horrible person. Yeah, he went on for 5, 6 paragraphs just bitching up a storm about Denmark. Oh, and I did look it up, the thing that's going around social media where Epstein Island was part of the last time we purchased something from Denmark. We purchased the islands in the Caribbean from them, and one of them was, yeah, Epstein Island. That is true. His ideology around the Ukraine war is so corrupt. It's treasonous. He's literally doing he's doing the Russians' bidding. It's slat. Um, and then he shits on NATO just endlessly. Went on. This is a good 30% of his speech just shitting on NATO, and then making a claim that just I found offensive and stupid, just gutturally dumb. I think that we would respond if there was a security threat against a NATO country, but none of the NATO countries would protect America. What? What the fuck are you talking about? The Mutual Assistance Pact was activated at 9/11. Who responded? NATO countries in multitudes of ways. Okay. This is just selling nationalist xenophobia. How nobody except Americans. Okay. This is like nobody but Ugandans under Idi Amin, or nobody except the Serbs under Slobodan Milosevic, or nobody except the superior North Koreans, according to Kim Jong Un. This is just nationalist bullshit. Who was flying the air and working on the AWACS, protecting our airspace so our crews could start heading toward Europe and Asia? Because we knew where we were going. We're going to Afghanistan and we're going to get there quick. Now, we could have gotten there quicker, I know, but um, the beginning of Afghanistan. Let me bring that up in a second. But yeah, Italians and Germans were doing the jobs protecting American airspace right after 9/11, and they did it for years. The Spanish, the Germans, the French, the Belgians, the Netherlands, when we got attacked, all launched fighters and went on the highest possible alert, including to do air patrols to protect our air bases overseas. The Carbonari in Italy responded to protect assets, bases, forts, material centers in Italy that belong to the United States military and the diplomatic missions. They most certainly answered the call. You xenophobic piece of shit. I told you, one of our family friends is a retired colonel from the Green Berets, 30 years in the army. He was a lieutenant colonel forever. I kept joking every time he came over in his uniform. I go, "They haven't made you colonel yet?" And I go, "Yeah, I know." He goes, "Yeah, the bastards." Freaking Green Beret with like 190 deployments throughout his career, and they still hadn't made him colonel. Like the last 2 years, they finally bumped him up to colonel because he got a new assignment. Um, he told me at the dinner table over coffee one day. He told me about how the first wave went into Afghanistan. He wasn't in on that. He was in Afghanistan later, um, including in some heavy firefights. He had videos of some that I saw way before they made it on the internet. I was watching it off his laptop, like the ravine sniper fight that they got stuck with for about 6-7 hours shooting at each other. Um, but he told me a story about how we first went into Afghanistan after 9/11, and it was purposely without our allies. We didn't want to be seen jumping into Afghanistan, pulling a Soviet Union. Same thing Soviet Union just did to Afghanistan, you know, jumping in as an imperial force, to take over the country. We didn't want to be seen like that. So a lot of our allies jumped with us. When they did their first jump to go meet the friendly warlords that the CIA had set up, uh, CIA went in first. We're already there. Um, then we sent in to lead special operators, military intelligence. Those guys came in, and that first big drop, they went in to do the initial meet and greets. A whole bunch of countries were on the planes. It wasn't just Green Berets and MI and if in our assets. It was SAS. It was GSG 9. It was Commando de Francais. Okay. Who were our fighter escorts? Spain. Who's doing massive, massive, massive intelligence gathering in Africa for us? The Italians. Who's keeping a side eye on Russia in case they want to take advantage in 9/11? The Swedes and Denmark. Greenland, part of Denmark. Okay. So that just, I mean, talk about rubbing me wrong. I heard that line. I was furious. He wants to destroy NATO over something, the opposite of what actually happened. Remember, I keep talking about opposites tonight? Yeah, this is opposite, man. Whatever the truth is, if the truth is black, he will tell you white. And his supporters looking at a black screen will go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that white." It's like the analogy I've been using about the blue sky. Trump could be standing around with a bunch of his sycophants, look up at the sky and say, "Oh, I can't believe the sky is purple with red waves and blinking gold polka dots." Everybody would look up at the blue sky and claim they see purple with red waves with blinking gold polka dots. That's why I keep reposting that video when people keep saying it's a cult. Yeah, I know it's a cult. I wrote a whole essay explaining why it's a cult. It's most definitely a cult. It's so much of a cult, it makes the Moonies seem simple. So where do we go from here? Because his speech at Davos was reaffirming everything wrong with what he knows. He cemented in the fact that he has no actual connection to reality. So what do we do? Hang on for dear life? Because that's what it seems Minneapolis is having to do right now. Especially when they start going after the local police. And I tell you what, if ICE shoots a cop, you're going to have your civil war. Not something I want, not something I'm asking for. I'm just saying, if ICE does something as stupid as hurt a local cop, you're gonna see a sheriff of one county go fucking mental and deploy every single one of his deputies with all the guns the U.S. Army gave them. Because remember, after 9/11, we threw guns at every single department in the country. They're military, armed up. There's nothing in the Army inventory this county or your county or another county doesn't have, up to and including a Marine tank. Now, that was a mistake, but the military still won't take it back. Yes, there's a military tank parked at a Washington State county sheriff's office that the Marines refuse to take back. It's got 107 millimeter mortars on it. And even the sheriff's like, what the fuck am I going to do with 107 millimeter mortars? This doesn't make any sense. Our local police department lied about the heavy arms they had. So we did a Freedom of Information Act request. The city attorney overruled the police chief, who was corrupt as fuck, and a Nazi princess. And we found out down to the serial numbers that they had 6 M14 KSs, heavy battlefield assault rifles, 762 millimeter, big bullets. Their excuse months earlier for the tank was that they were, quote, outgunned. They have 6 M14 KS battlefield rifles, in addition to an AR-15 in every single car. But they're outgunned. No, we armed the local police to the teeth. Because Washington politicians expected the local police back in 2001, 2003, that era, when they started deploying all the federal arming of all the local police departments. They expected the local police and the county sheriffs not to do law enforcement like ICE is not doing law enforcement. They expected them to get the guns and go apeshit on us. That's what they were hoping for. That's why the guns got delivered. That's why they gave them none of these departments pay for the tanks. They're given to them. They hand them out like candy. Okay. ICE shoots a local cop, which they threatened to do yesterday, according to the chief of police. A lot of the videos are ugly. I understand they slapped the camera out of the hand of the officer who was pulled over. Yeah, if it's the Black Panthers, they confront, they've got a Second Amendment issue problem. Every white boy who's getting a little upset, you start to see him on the internet. White punchy boy with his AR-15 or his AM-10, whatever they got, standing on his front lawn because this is his neighborhood. Okay. I don't think ICE understands, and none of the managers, they're all idiots. I mean, they're literally unaware people. They don't know the reality they're in. Cosplaying Christy No has no idea what she's doing. She has no idea the problem she's setting up. Not to mention, even if they move in large groups, and I've seen them in the streets of Minneapolis as groups as large as a couple of dozen, an effective team as small as 6, 2 dozen targets aren't that hard to drop when you got that many shooters. Okay. They hit local police or county deputy, all hell's going to break loose across the country. Now, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's an old saying, old Arabic saying. What does ICE plan to do when the Black Panthers go, you know what? Today, we cool with Philly PD. Oh, we're also cool with the Hells Angels. And all of a sudden, on one side of the line is ICE, and the other side of the line is a whole bunch of different groups. Now what? Because it's like Somalia, the Battle of Mogadishu. That wasn't one warlord. That wasn't one group. It was an entire city suddenly exploding and tens of thousands of people coming out into the streets, many of them armed. If you have a police force out there that literally thinks the Fourth Amendment does not exist for them. Now, I'm sure when they get arrested, because one of the HS guys got arrested for child porn recently. Okay. I bet you they insist when they go to arrest a HSI agent for attempted child sex trafficking and acquiring child pornography. I bet you they insist that you have a search warrant to go along with the arrest warrant when it's the HSI agent's house or later their house. Now, this is how dumb the ACE agents are, especially the idiot Ross who shot Renee Good, because that was murder too with malice. The way I see it, it was murder too. I don't know what the lawyer thinks, but the FBI thought there was something wrong. We now know that Todd Blanche shut down the ongoing FBI investigation and the civil rights investigation. He shut them both down. It wasn't that they didn't try to start an investigation like they always do. They did. The DOJ personnel, the FBI, tried to do their damn jobs. Todd Blanche personally put a stop to it. And where it could go like super wrong. Let's say they go up to a house and they think it's the guy's house they're looking for, but they're at the wrong address. That happens sometimes. There's some ugly stories about hitting wrong houses in law enforcement. You got to be careful. That's why you should be scouting out the target for hours or even days sometimes before you hit the door. Um, like the one, I think it was in Pennsylvania, the guy, another child molestation, child exploitation case. Local cops decided to roll up on this white boy's house, old guy, probably my age, a little older. They didn't bother ever looking at his Facebook page or learning anything about the guy before they try to serve him with a search warrant and arrest warrant. He's a shooting champion with a German G3 rifle, 308, 7.62 millimeter semi-automatic. Yeah, he dropped half the cops that showed up at his door. Okay. What if ICE hits a door and it's an old white boy they get into a firefight with, and the old white boy nukes a half a dozen ICE agents? No search warrant. They need one. They're saying they don't need one. He's kicking a guy's door. The guy grabs his gun because he thinks it's a burglar. Never heard or saw them coming. All he sees now is masks and a foot kicking in his door. So he grabs whatever he's got and starts throwing rounds downrange. How do you spin that on Fox Noise? What excuses is Benny Johnson or Tim Pool going to make? You're at the wrong house. You don't have a search warrant. Now you got 6 dead agents. Okay. A dead homeowner that had nothing to do with anything. You'd gotten into a gigantic firefight with an innocent person because they know they're grabbing U.S. citizens. If there's literally U.S. citizen sections at some of the detention facilities, they know what they're doing. And I still can't believe a federal district judge has not put a stop to not deporting, but moving inside the United States away from the locality, U.S. citizens after what turns out to be a lot of bogus arrests. Bogus arrests where they're driving the people down a few 6, 7 blocks and throwing them back out the car after they used force on them. Is there any police reports on this? No. And remember, Chuck Schumer and Cory Booker want to give them more money. not cut them off at the knees. Because that's the only thing an out of control department of the government understands. We'll take away your fucking money, dude. And I think that's a hard line for me in the next coming election. If you're running for office and you want to support this crap at any level, the tactics, the stupidity, the lack of acumen, anything to do with this ICE crap, border patrol crap, turning the entire country into a war zone because you never built the wall. You said the wall would stop everything. You didn't build a wall. In fact, civilians tried to build a wall, and that ended up into a big criminal fraud in which an Air Force veteran was convicted and sent to prison. But of course, he was later a partner. Of course. You know, the physical chances of you deporting 11 million people is zero. Unless you do unspeakable cruel acts and violate every norm and every part of the Constitution that's available to U.S. citizens, including going door to door without a search warrant. An arrest warrant or a deportation order is not a search warrant. They're two different animals. Just because you have one does not mean you have the other. Claiming so makes you sound very stupid. So when it comes to the midterms, like I said, it's our only out. If we lose the midterms, we lose everything. And they will take everything away from us. Whatever problem they cause, whatever loss or liability they create, they will take it not indirectly like they did during the bank bailouts. They're going to take it directly out of our ass in multiple ways. The oligarchs and the billionaires are out of fucking control. Congress is lazy, corrupt, and stupid. The left-right orthodoxy between the Democrats and Republicans isn't helping anybody. It isn't doing shit right now. Because go back to the first topic. The big reason why you're not seeing the Epstein files, because they wrote a shitty law. You know, you hand a law with that many loopholes and and really not a big way to enforce it, that they'd be actually worried about or actually scared for, if they didn't act appropriately. Um, it shows me that this was a hand waving gesture. And again, now we're putting it all back in the laps of the victims because the government won't act. Congress won't act. Side hand waving. Judges keep saying that they can't do things. Supreme Court isn't almost a 85% of the time in full protection mode of Trump. I think that's about to change with the tariff decisions. The tariffs are so freaking unconstitutional. It's just so wildly unconstitutional. Um, and it's a pattern of behavior of unconstitutionality, especially considering the stolen Venezuelan oil and the proceeds being dumped in Qatar, not under the Treasury security or Congress's appropriation direction. So we need to change. It has to be huge. It has to be huge. And if we're going to reelect a bunch of Democrats, then you got to hold their goddamn feet to the fire. Are we really going to reelect Chuck Schumer after he writes stern memos and that's as far as he's going to take any issue? While a woman is literally being murdered in the streets by government agents? We now know the NRA was always full of shit. Because the NRA that I grew up with was about hunting and gun safety. It wasn't about all the political shit. I used to be a lifetime member of the NRA. I cut up my card into hundreds of pieces, wrote a fuck you letter to Wayne LaPierre personally after he called the ATF agents goose stepping Nazis. One of my friends in the ATF just got shot in a search warrant. He was okay. The vest got the bullet, but yeah, that one pissed me off. So I said, fuck you. That was a big thing. Police, most civilian police, um, did not have a favorable opinion of the NRA back in my day for several reasons. Mainly the arming of criminals, the open arming of criminals. So yeah, midterms. I don't know. I'm still in the opinion, a strong opinion, that getting more independents in the House will do wonders. Independents who won't caucus. Because the biggest problem with Democrats and Republicans is the caucus system and the fundraising system. You have to caucus with your party or they will shun you. Your job is not to write bills in Congress. It's to get on the phone and call campaign donors and raise money for the party. That's why I think independents could be a better alternative. But we got to get out there. We can't have a 42% turnout like 2022. We can't. We just can't. The turnout has to be 20, 25, even 30% higher if you want any effectual change. Because if you don't get a body in the House and in the Senate that's willing to impeach and convict, not just Trump, but a whole list of people, we're in trouble. What's going on now cannot stand. It cannot stand. This can't just all be written off as and normalized. No. No, 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 no. We need special, not a special prosecutor. We need special prosecutors, plural. We need to impeach minimally 2 Supreme Court justices, Alito and Clarence Thomas. I think Kavanaugh and Comey Barrett, who's already kind of turning out a little different than I expected, I think they'll get the full message when we bounce Thomas. I'm not saying they're going to fall in line, but they at least won't do ideologically stupid things. Okay. That's the stakes I'm talking about. We're not just talking about, oh, we need to go back and, pass an update to this or that, or, get the subsidies back for ACA or get the money back in for the arts. All that's fine and well when we get to it. The midterms is about starting the cleanup. The crazy bastard and his followers have shit all over our society, literally wiped their feces on the wall of Congress. Now we have to clean it up. We need to get the batch of people in the sufficient numbers. Ones who will not answer to idiots like Chuck Schumer, who won't be sellouts like Cory Booker. I have more appreciation for Don Bacon, the crazy Republican from Texas right now, than I do for Cory Booker. Don Bacon flat out said, I will lead the impeachment of the president if he tries to invade Greenland. At least there's a red line with Bacon. There doesn't seem to be one with Booker. What they did to that Hmong grandpa the other day, taking him out in the freezing cold in his underwear with a blanket barely wrapped around him and then throwing him out. because he's a U.S. citizen. You couldn't have figured out he's a U.S. citizen when you did the warrant. Oh, you didn't have one. Fuck you. God damn. Yeah. Vote, 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 vote. That's the your entire conversations with everybody you know, your friends, your family, your circle, okay, your neighborhood is getting out to vote. Don't worry about the one knucklehead that doesn't want to go along with the program, okay? Or he's a Trump supporter and he's not reformable, okay? You get 10 voters who didn't vote in the last couple of cycles onto the voting rolls and into a polling place, that will make a difference. The polling numbers show that uh, Alpha and Gen Z fucking hate Trump. They fucking hate nationalism. Okay. Even some of them are figuring out that Uncle Bernie siding with some of Trump's little commie plans isn't cool either. Okay. So I think both parties are in for a wake up call because the polling is so changed. If we just hypothetical, thought experiment, if each one of us got 10 people who did not vote before or didn't vote in the last few cycles, got them active, 6 to 7 of them would vote against what's going on today. Because remember, the way we're voting now, it's almost 50-50. 1 or 2 points either way. That's it. You get the 20%, the 25, the 30% who are eligible to vote but never showed up there at the polling place. I think big things are going to happen. Because now you're going to have months and months and months of pain because now the policy pain is hitting. You lost your health insurance. You lost your subsidy. That forced you to lose your health insurance. Prices are not going down, they're going up. Natural gas is spiking because of the weather. Everybody's natural gas bill next month's going to be even higher. Okay. We are the fracking kings of planet Earth, but our electricity prices and our natural gas prices have never been higher against the economy. This is why we need a new set of people in governance. Okay. Be independent, vote independent, run for local office as an independent. Okay. Get people who don't vote in your circle, get them to get a registration card, get them interested in a candidate, and get them out voting. If we lose the midterms, we lose America. Until next time, please think about it.